Church Growth Unleashed, diving into all things leadership and church growth. Provide the help, encouragement, insights that you need along the journey of growing yourself as a leader and your ministry. Hey guys, welcome back to the Church Growth Unleashed podcast. I'm your host, Danny Anderson, lead pastor of Emmanuel Church, and you guys are in for a special treat today because I have on a Zoom call with me today my good friend Micah McElveen, who leads a ministry called Vapor Ministries, and I am so excited to have him here today because he is a phenomenal leader. God's hand is upon his life, upon his ministry, and I'm so excited to let him speak to you guys today, ask some questions, and talk leadership, growing ministry, and also how to take care of your soul and your family. So welcome to the show, Micah.
Hey, glad to be here with you, Danny. Excited.
It's an honor to talk to you, dude. Just so our audience can know, Micah is not just someone that our church gets behind, but he's also a dear friend of mine and has a beautiful family. And why don't we just start there? Can you tell us a little bit about your family, your kids, and just a little bit about you, who you are?
Well, I'm married to my best friend, my bride, Audrey McElveen. We have been married for 19 years this year, and we did not have kids until 10 years into marriage. So our first child, Arrow Amani, is actually coming up on 10 years of age. And then we have a little grace gift, given Gracia, and she just turned 7. So we are a family on mission together and absolutely love my crew and very grateful for them. So
awesome. And I've had a chance to meet all of them, be with them. Your wife is dynamic. She's precious, and she is truly a blessing to you, for sure.
I'm telling you what, she is the heart and soul, if you will, many say, behind Vapor. So her love for the Lord is so it pushes through her skin, for sure.
It really does. It oozes out, for sure. Okay, so our audience today, maybe they have heard of you, maybe they haven't. Tell us a little bit about Vapor Ministries, like what you guys do globally. It's a global organization. A little bit about your team, your staff, and just give us a picture of who you are, what Vapor is.
Yeah, so as a ministry, we serve in extreme poverty. We're advancing the gospel, caring for the poorest of the poor, and we're serving in East Africa, West Africa, and Haiti. We have 847 team members globally. And so we move into some of the poorest places on planet Earth, people that are surviving on less than $2 a day. And we build out these ministry centers. And the ministry centers have fulsome disciple making using the platform of the sport of choice. And then it's water, food, education, health services. And then the small businesses create jobs and products that help break cycles of poverty. So you have this at-scale, holistic ministry model that is now serving hundreds of thousands of people on a weekly basis in extreme poverty, focused on where less reached and unreached meets underserved extreme poverty. So
it's awesome. 840 team members. I don't know if you guys heard that. That is a massive team. You are. This is what I'm super impressed about when I watched you. You've invited me to sit on your board. I've watched you in board meetings. I've watched you lead your team. Obviously, running an organization like that takes incredible focused leadership. And I know you're an avid reader of books on leadership and growth. Give us a picture of or how you would define leadership or how you view leadership.
I think there's a lot of good voices in that space who've given kind of snapshot synopsis types of sayings, and I would agree with the thought line that leadership at the end of the day is influence. I think some would say it's influence, no less, no more. But the idea of if you're leading, if you look behind you, or if you are a leader, if you look behind you, and are there people following, right? And so I think at the simplest form, leveraging influence towards an end and taking people with you is kind of how I think broadly about leadership.
Yeah, well, you certainly have that ability. to influence lots and lots of different people. I'm one of them, and privileged to serve, with you, under you, and follow you in that sense to help Vapor become all that God has in mind. So, the strategy, leaders often think through, okay, vision, strategy. I want to talk a little bit about vision here in a second, but what would you say, you mentioned this a little bit, that Vapor's strategy is to accomplish, what you guys are accomplishing? Talk a little bit about strategy.
About strategy.
Yeah.
Yes. So, um, for I think, as you kind of talked about, there's multiple key components that are key in that process of taking somebody somewhere, taking people to an end. And the first question we have to ask as it pertains to strategy is, are our prevailing strategies aligned with and helping us accomplish the vision, right? The vision and the mission. And so at the end of the day, we want to have clarity up top, like on where we're going, and then our strategies become the means through which we are actually now putting feet to that pursuit. And so when we think about strategy at Vapor, we are first asking the question, like, does it directly tie to the end state that we're trying to drive? I think it's very easy, especially if you're an entrepreneurial leader, to have so many different ideas, so many different things that good things that may be meaningful. But the first question we have to ask is, does this actually accomplish the thing that we're ultimately setting out to achieve? And there's a few things that we put in place to help us walk through that. And some of that ends up finding its way into even processes and expectations that we have as people are outlining strategies. For instance, we have what we call 3 Ps, and inside these 3 Ps, you have to declare before you execute any process, what is the purpose and what is the clarified when. And then you have to establish that the purpose of this exercise, the purpose of this thing we're going to do in a clarified when, have to be able to draw a straight line to, does it actually accomplish the advancement of our mission, our vision? And then when you get into strategic planning for us, we actually have this cascading process that we walk through. And so that at a top level, we have, what is our strategic objective? And then we have primary strategies that buy that down. And then we say, what are the supporting tactics that help us execute that or walk that out? So I think if we think on the technical side of strategy, its role, and how do we make sure that our strategies are congruent with where we want to go, and then how do we organizationally align ourselves in view of that? We're thinking of it as, hey, it's the roadmap to get where we want to go. Does that path align with our vision, our end state? And then if so, let's get clear on what it looks like to take steps in that direction and hold ourselves accountable.
Okay. So let me back up. I probably have asked the wrong question or gotten them out of order.
Okay.
So I asked the strategy question. So let's come back to that in a minute.
Okay. Because
strategy is really purposeless unless you have a clarity of vision. So I have sat in front of you in a room before where you have laid out the vision for Vapor Ministries, and it's massive, it's huge, it's audacious, it seems impossible, honestly, when I sit and I listen to you share it. So tell us what that vision is, and then maybe we can go back to the strategy question of how you're trying to fulfill that vision, and maybe even speak to why is it so important for leaders to have a super clear, super big, massive vision. Yeah.
So so for us, when we think about vision, I think about vision in 2 ways. So I think, and it depends on kind of the language that somebody's using too. But when we think about the unchanging element of our vision, it's like we exist to do something, right? And we exist to meet needs, feed souls, elevate God, right? So we're gonna meet needs, care for the poorest of the poor. Jesus called us to over 2,000 times in His Word. We're going to feed souls, right? Advance the gospel, make disciples in all nations. We're going to bring glory to God. So when we talk about our our unchanging big vision, we have this whole ideal of like, we're pressing towards these marks that we're going to pursue till Jesus returns. When we talk about like our 10-year vision or our 10-year goal, right, type of thing, which we also talk about in terms of, it's a big, hairy, audacious goal, right? It's a big vision.
Jim Collins, right?
That's right. Yeah. So we're aiming at what we call 11-5-31. And for us, that's to build 11 new centers, 5 new thrift stores by 11-5-31, which probably doesn't mean a lot to people sitting on the other side of this podcast, in the sense of, you have to really know some of our inner workings for that to all make sense. But what I'll tell you, like, what is that big vision? Like, what is the end result of that? It would be 2,000 team members serving millions of people on a weekly basis in West Africa, East Africa, Haiti, and it would be predominantly pushing into unreached areas. So the vision in that sense, like the big, hairy, audacious goal, has set tone for, okay, there's a bunch of other things we need to do in order to, at scale, be able to not only deliver on that vision, but be able to sustainably operate in view of that preferred future. So,
yeah, so good. Let me ask this question, because I know pastors, leaders, they really struggle with having a vision that large. Could you maybe talk through, you obviously don't. You have cast a massive vision. You want to impact millions of people weekly. That's just, I just don't know many people that would even say that out loud. You've cast this huge vision. How have you been able to break through maybe some of the hesitations or doubts of like, yeah, I don't know, that just seems crazy. There's not many organizations in the world that do that, Red Cross or this or whatever. Where do you get away with casting a vision that big? And how do you overcome the doubts? Speak to the pastors out there that are maybe leading a church and they're afraid to cast a big vision like that because, for whatever reason, self-doubt, lack of faith, I don't know, fear of not having the resources, whatever. How could you encourage them today?
Yeah, that's a good question. And on one hand, I'm almost at a loss for words, but I'll more speak for myself, because a part of me says, I don't know if I can coach somebody else in that process, but I can just tell you like how it's come about for us. I think a combination of things. First of all, like the need is tremendous. The need is great. And so there's an underlying, like, so many people on planet Earth need Jesus, and Jesus is going after all of them. And so you have this one, it's like big need requires big response.
Absolutely.
And we serve a big God who is able to do abundantly more than we can think or ask. So I think you take those starting points, tremendous global need, tremendous big God. He has told us that he is going to move his people towards the nations, and that at the end of the day, he sees a representation of every people, every tribe, every tongue gathered around the throne at the end. So I look at Revelation 7-9, I look at the end state, I see a people from every tribe, nation, tongue gathered around the throne, and then he's invited us to participate in that. So like that, the context of our work is a context where a very big God is after a very big end state, and he's able to move in and through his people to that end. Now, here is where I think it now becomes very personal. So it's like, okay, yes, we agree with all that, but like, what is he specifically telling me my part is in that, and what is he telling me? What is he telling the entity I lead? And I think that's where it becomes very spirit led from there, at least for us. So we want to have a starting context for what's he trying to do in the world, how big is he, all of that leads the charge. But from there, how it's come for us is a combination of prayer, fasting, pressing in and asking him, actually executing work the last 20 years now, seeing what he has taught us, realizing what our capacity and scale is, and then trying to build upon that. And so that's where I think that it, again, starts to become uniquely personal, because that's what he's impressed on our hearts. That's what we have deliberated on and worked towards as leaders. We actually are pursuing something that, yes, is very big, but also there is also a lot of wisdom and thoughtfulness and intentionality embedded in it. It's not just a random, like, well, let's do this, right? There's a lot behind it.
Yeah. Well, you said that you didn't necessarily feel like you could coach us on that, but what you just gave us was absolute gold. I hope you guys were taking notes when you're listening to that. We've got a big God. There's a big need, and we already know the end result in Revelation. There's this massive group of people that from every tribe and nation. So, so encouraging. That inspires me to cast an even bigger vision, because the same thing is true for pastors and churches, right? We're not necessarily feeding the poor in Africa, or but that's why we're partnering with you. But the need is so huge right now. People need Jesus all over the place. So why not have a big vision to reach thousands and thousands, maybe even millions, every single week with the gospel? Thank you for having a big faith in a big God. I love it. So now let's go back to strategy, because now we kind of see a little bit of the vision. So speak specifically, like a lot of times pastors struggle, leaders struggle, like putting together a strategy to fulfill that vision. Maybe can you speak to maybe some of the things that you guys specifically do to fulfill that vision, and really try to push into the nuts and bolts, like you mentioned your thrift stores, or how do you actually put together that strategy?
Yeah. So I'm thinking in two lanes right now. One is kind of principled, and then the second then becomes kind of maybe technical on our side a bit. So I think the first one that I think may be helpful to speak to is when we think about pursuing something, it's like, what are the principled core needs that must be met in order to do that, right? And so when I think about that, I think about, we're going to have the people to go. We're going to have the systems to scale, and we're going to have the capital to fund it, right? So, and I think that is relevant to all of us. Like anything that is growing, right? Healthy things grow. And so what things have to be healthy and present in order to grow an entity, a church, or whatever? Well, again, we need people, we need capital, and again, growth requires systems. And so what we're asking ourselves is like, do we have excellent, effective, proven, and can we produce results in those areas right where we're at right now? And then if we say, okay, we want to expand that, we want to grow that, then what do we need in each of those areas to do that? What's it going to cost? How many people are required? And then what's the expansion in the systems to get that way? So I think that I would say is we're constantly evaluating health in those areas, and then elasticity. Are we able to just do this right now at this volume, or are we ready to expand? So I think that would be something that may be helpful for folks to think about in general. When it gets to kind of the technical side for us, and this is probably where I went earlier, we do use some different processes and kind of pathways, if you will, to help us buy strategy down. So we have what we call like cascading goals, and it's like our cascading goal logic. So it starts with the strategic objective. So each year, what is our strategic objective? What's the massive hill we're going to climb together this year in order to be able to next year be one step closer to this big, hairy, audacious goal? And then our departments and divisions, they buy down 3 primary strategies that basically, if these 3 strategies were done, it would help us accomplish that strategic objective. And then those primary strategies have to be fleshed out in what we call supporting tactics. And so those supporting tactics now have who are the people that are going to accomplish that tactic, what's the timing that that's delivered on, What's it going to cost to do it? And then we're tracking those red, yellow, and green, and we're tracking those by percentage. So that's where it gets very, very granular. And you pull it all together and it becomes, hey, we said we're going here over 10 years. Next year, this is the big hill we're going to try to climb. Okay, how are we going to break that down into responsibilities in departments and divisions? And then how are those going to be broken down into tactical steps that are actually cross-functional or cross-departmental that have real meat to them? And then that's how we connect big concepts, big, hairy, audacious goals to actually like, but tomorrow I need to do X in order to push that forward. So,
and there's so many pastors and leaders that they because they haven't done that kind of work, which is difficult. That's what everything you just said is difficult leadership. It's leadership on the ground. They wake up in the morning and they don't know what to fill their day with. So what I've noticed is that a lot of leaders, so because they don't know what to do and they're not on a strategic plan that's connected to a 1-year goal, that's connected to a 10-year goal, they just respond to needs. Well, this person needs counseling, or this person, there's a wedding I have to do, or I've got to preach this, sermon, or somebody just committed suicide, so I'll go counsel that family. And so I love the book, The 4 Disciplines of Execution. I know you have read that. Some of the people around you, close to you, have read that. He talks about it like the whirlwind. Mm-hmm. That's the name he gives it. And the whirlwind is all of the stuff that's going on in our organizations, churches, businesses, that if we're not strategic with our actions on a daily basis, we get sucked in. Is that sort of where you kind of came up with everything you've just said the last 5 minutes? The 4 disciplines.
That's a great question. It's a number. So yes and no. That book has definitely impacted us, and we use From X to Y by Win and some of those things, and definitely share that common language of Whirlwind. There's a series of resources and books, and then really things from God's Word that have all sewn in, and so everything from traction, which is you walk that out. They talk about an entrepreneurial operating system.
That's the book by Gino Wickman, right? I actually see it. I actually see it on your bookshelf there. I can see
great.
that. I see Traction. If you guys have not picked up that book, Traction, that is such a good book.
Yeah, if you take a compilation, if I were to pull a couple like books that have influenced our thinking, and we don't use exclusively like an operating system out of any one of them, but from The Advantage to even Principles in E-Myth to Traction to 40X, those are all resources that kind of speak to that space. And then our operating system and then how we do strategic planning takes a mixture of those principles and then things that we've learned from board members and then just our own experience. Actually, the terminology of cascading goals flows out of a conversation I had with a board member who they had sold their company to Lockheed Martin, and he was in one of those multi-year, you got to work for the new company and you can choose to opt in after a certain point. And in one of our conversations, he was talking about, hey, one of the things he appreciated about this multi-billion-dollar company, right, was their cascading goal construct. And he felt like, even though they were a small part of this big company now, that they were actually interconnected into this conglomerate based off of the way that they did planning. And that's all I got. I didn't go and meet with Lockheed Martin, but the language and some of the thoughts he shared were like, yes, we're a multi-vertical entity, right? And we need to make sure that there's congruence and continuity across our platforms inside of how we execute work, while there also needs to be enough liberty inside of departments and divisions for them to focus on their core contributions. So
yeah, so good. Well, I love that you consume books. I know you have your team reading books, and it is shaped your leadership. And leaders are readers, right? I heard that many years ago. We've got to be consuming great content to help us to learn how to build a strategy around an effective vision, so that we can achieve the goals that God has given us. So love that. So you are all over the place. You are in Africa, then you're in Haiti, then you're speaking at this church and that church. You've spoken at our church before. You are running 100 miles an hour. The organization you lead has an incredible amount of team members. You also have a wife and children. One of my passions is to help pastors and leaders grow their church without losing their soul. That's kind of the subtitle of my book that I wrote. Talk to us a little bit about how you take care of your soul and how you make sure that Jesus is the love of your life and you just don't get, sucked into the leadership of your organization and to the neglect of your soul. How do you take care of your soul, and how do you take care of your marriage to make sure it's sweet and loving?
Yeah, that's awesome, Pastor Danny. One, I would just say that has been an area for me that I find I have to be intentional with, or I lose myself. And multiple times in the last 20 years, I've found myself, running too hard, working too many hours, and not being healthy. So I'd say, one, confession. I think for some people, or I say confession for me, there is a real tension here. And if I'm left to myself, I don't have good balance. Now, that notwithstanding, there's a number of practices that have really tried to embrace the last set of years in particular to have margin there. And so I think the starting point is really identifying what is the vision in key areas, and then what is the plan, and then what does that look like from a time commitment to those areas. So we actually my wife and I go through a planning process that involves both Vapor and our family. So we have a family mission, vision, and values, just like Vapor does. So we have goals for our family in that regard. And then we've outlined, and then we use this offsite we do a couple times a year. We've outlined, what does it mean to be successful and whole in these different spaces? And then how does that find its way with rhythms on the calendar? So for instance, in my own spiritual life, for me, it's a mixture of prayer. It's a mixture of time in God's word. It's a mixture of just really fasting, praying. And so for me, it's got to land on my calendar. And so I get up at 4 a.m. On a normal basis. And then I really have an hour and a half, the first part of the morning, when I'm at my best, zero digital. It's in the living room, and it's using prayer frameworks. I'm doing the chronological event-based Bible right now, and then I journal every morning, and then I'm working through a psalm. Right now, I memorized Psalm 145, and I'm actually in a rehearsal process with that. But it's every morning, whether I'm preaching, whether it's just a normal work day. It's like, for me, I have to have that time with the Lord. Praise, worship, word, prayer. And so my day starts there. And then inside of the spiritual component, and I've been more committed to this than ever, it is an absolute commitment around Sabbath. And it's on my calendar. It's scheduled on my calendar. And if I'm speaking somewhere, then it's Monday. Or if, traveling overseas, sometimes it has to be like I'm in Africa, but I'm Sabbathing in West Africa, whatever. So those putting those on the calendar, pre-committing before I commit to anything else, my soul has to be healthy. On the physical side, for me personally, it's 4 days a week workout, and that happens for me right after devotion. And then I've got a set routine I'll do, and then I'll hop into the cold plunge. So that was this morning. Did my time in the Word. Got my workout in.
You're
Quick
a sick
little
man.
cold plunge. Yeah.
You're a sick.
Yeah. And then come to the office. So I think I could get way too detailed if I'm not careful. I think the big picture, to answer your question, is I have found that I have to identify what are those key areas, come into agreement with my wife, and then it's a matter of it's on the calendar, and then using that predetermined pre-decisions. Like, will I submit to that and walk in it? Will it Sabbath? Will I enter into that time with the Lord. We do a family walk. So I get when I log off at work, get home, and it's pretty consistent. Typically 5 days a week. Sometimes it may be 3-4 days a week, but we try to, my wife has the kids together, and then I set the phone down, and then we do that mile walk. Sometimes it's a couple mile walk, and that helps bridge to the house. And then there's a time where my phone just doesn't come back out. Hard conversations are done, and just try to be dad. So those would be a few things. So
I love it. And that's so, everything you just said is wonderful. I hope you guys are picking up here that Micah is absolutely intentional with every hour of his day. And not to say you never waste time, but I understand your habit stacking. You're pulling that from James Clear. I can see that in your rhythm. I try so hard just to submit to the power of ritual instead of relying upon, do I feel like it? Am I tired? Am I on my game? Nope. It's just submit to the ritual. That's how you get the results. And I remember I was with you recently at an event for Vapor, and Pastor Chris Hodges was one of our speakers, and he said something to the effect of, you probably remember the exact quote, I've never met a leader that is not disciplined with his time or doesn't have his grasp on his schedule, something like that. Do you remember how exactly he said it?
What you said, I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't have the exact quote, but directionally, yes.
It's like
what you just said.
You don't meet a high functioning capacity leader that is not planning out their day around these strategic activities that will eventually help them to walk closely with God, or have a great marriage, or be a great father, or whatever it is they're trying to accomplish. And Micah, I don't know if you've seen this. I have seen this. A lot of leaders, they don't pay attention to that. Their schedule is, loose, and other people are grabbing their time, and they're just responding and reacting. And so I would encourage leaders, man, what Micah just said about his schedule and his habits and his rituals, that's how you do it. And thanks for sharing that. I know that was a little vulnerable. And guess what? You're one of the healthiest leaders I know in your leadership and in your marriage. It just comes out. I see it. I saw it this last event we were together. I saw it in your son's face. How old is Arrow now?
Arrow, this in a couple weeks will turn 10. So he's 9 right now, but about to turn 10.
And he's 10 years old, and he's walking around the room, and he's full of joy, and he's just meeting people like he's no fear of adults. You even gave him an opportunity to speak to the group of pastors, and he blessed our socks off. I mean, he just what he said, and just how thankful he was that we were there. I mean, you cannot get that kind of fruit out of a child unless you're leading well as a father. And so I just want to say thank you for taking care of your soul, being a good dad first, being a good husband first, being a good Christ follower first, and then leading your organization second. So it's awesome. I see the fruit, baby.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
And Dane, let me just throw this in real quick, because this has come up twice as we were talking, because you said something before, and it really ties to like fighting randomness, because it's easy to get just kind of both professionally and personally find ourselves caught in the tyranny of the urgent, caught in that whirlwind. And clarity is kindness. And I think we have to fight for that clarity
That's good.
and actually get to the bottom line where we say, what are my core contributions, both professionally and then on the personal side, saying what does health look like? It's planning with the end in mind, having that end state. So one of the things that we do at Vapor Ministries is we have a 1-line and rule of 5 for everybody. And the 1 line is, you can't remember your 2-page job description, but I can remember like my 1 line. My main contribution is in essence X. And what are the 5 things I focus on? So if you were to ask anybody at Vapor Ministries, hey, what's your job title? What's your 1 line and your rule of 5? The goal is that they can know that. So if you were to ask me, it's inspire team and select stakeholders in aligned pursuit of our vision. And the 5 things that I focus on would be strategy formation, capital allocation, key stakeholder development, culture formation, and spiritual development. So I can't do everything at Vapor, right? I'm not even literally capable, but there's so many demands, so many needs. But the question is what are the 5 things I focus on? And what is the essence of me doing my part at Vapor Ministries? And so now then the question then becomes like, is that what's driving my calendar? And again, I don't want to get into too much detail here, but mine is color coded. So each of those 5 things has a color coded, and then I can look at my calendar and say, where is my time going on any given month? And am I actually giving myself to the main things that I'm called to focus on? And it's not that I won't do anything else, but the first question is, am I doing the part that I'm being paid to do? And can I see that in time? And then, yes, now let me go in and do other things. But I think the simple point there is like, do we know what our core contribution is? And then have we bought it down to say, this is what it looks like in chunks? And then can I actually look at a day and say, yes, my time is or isn't going to that? And then for the entity that we lead, have we helped everybody else be in a spot where they know what we expect of them? Do they know what success looks like? And do they know what to focus on to do that? And then are they putting that intentionality, even if it's not color coded and whatever, like, are they using their time to their
Yeah.
main contribution?
Some would say you geek out on it. You geek out on it.
Yeah.
But that's good, because honestly, for an outsider looking in, well, maybe I'm not an outsider because I've seen the internal workings of Vapor. I see the results. I see your team. I see the fruit. I see the vision being fulfilled, and that's the result of your super intentional approach to basically stay focused on the key objectives that you need to be accomplishing each week. So that was great. I hope you guys are taking notes on that. Phenomenal. I'm going to go back and watch that in the podcast and write all that down. So good. So you have said in the past, I just have 2 more questions for you. You have said in the past, you can either waste your life or you can invest your life. I love that statement. I can't remember if that was in your book, Dying for Purpose. Mike has written an incredible book. If you guys want to pick this up, we'll put this in the show notes for you. Can you extrapolate that statement a little bit? It's just, you can either waste your life or invest your life. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, a mixture of life experience. As you know, Danny, I was found dead. Found face down in the water. I'd been there 5 to 7 minutes, and obviously, news flash: I'm not dead. Made it by God's grace. But if you survive dying, it changes how you live, and an intentionality flows out of that sense of understanding that life truly is a vapor. So I think this sense of, hey, life is a vapor, and I only get one shot at it. I want to be intentional with it. Flows out of, in part, coming to the doorstep of death and saying, okay, I want to be intentional. The other is the word of God. Obviously, he speaks that reality to us, right? What is your life but a breath, but a vapor? And then he talks about that both in James and in the Psalms, Psalm 39, 4 through 7. And so I think at the end of the day, when we really think about our mortality and we really think about the fact that from a trillion-year time horizon perspective, our 30, 70, 80-year life is a mist, a puff. We're really brought to a place where we really only have 2 options. Like, we will either waste it, and waste it is in spending it on things that don't matter for eternity, or we'll invest it. And invest it is intentionally stewarding our life's resources, our time, talent, treasure, and influence in a way that it actually will matter. It'll reverberate in eternity. And so the impetus of that, the impetus behind our brand, Vapor Ministries, and the sense of urgency comes from a combination of reality, God's word, and then personal life experience. And then just saying, let's fight the inertia of mindlessly going through life, and instead focus life's energy on that which will matter forever. That's the effort.
Well, you answered my second question, which is about where did vapor come from. So
Oh,
that's good.
sorry.
No, that's great. You did it perfectly because you kind of brought it together. Micah, thank you for living that out. There's very, very few people in my life that I could say, oh my gosh, this guy is absolutely living life the way it's supposed to be lived. I know you're not perfect. I know you got issues, whatever, but you inspire me. I think about you almost every week. I'm praying for you, thinking of you, and the way that you approach life is just completely inspiring. And I hope that our viewers today could get that feel and vibe from you. That's why, as a church, we are thrilled to partner with you. I mean, we're so excited because we know that as we invest in Vapor, it's actually producing results. People are getting clean water. People are getting medical needs met. They're getting food. They're receiving the gospel. So I would encourage anybody listening today to reach out to you, Vapor Ministries. How can they do that? If they say, hey man, this guy, wow, I didn't know about him. How do I talk to them? How would they do that?
Yeah, you can go online, vaporministries.org, find out more about us there. You can also follow us on all the social handles, Vapor Ministries and Micah McElveen. We both have all the Facebook, the LinkedIn, all of that type of stuff. But yeah, if anybody was interested in partnering with Vapor Ministries, well, we would absolutely love to partner. And so shoot me an email at Micah, MICAH, at vaporministries.org, and we'll get you connected with the right team member on our side. But man, we would love to make a difference together.
So awesome. Where can they pick up a copy of this? I mean, I just put the link in the podcast here. Is that good?
Yeah, absolutely. You can pick it up at Amazon.
Okay, great.
Amazon's the best place to pick that up.
We'll put the link in there. So, hey, this has been a joy. Anytime I get to spend some time with you, I know you're super busy, so thank you for carving out time to be here. Any closing words for us today? You've got, we got leaders, pastors sitting here. Any last words of encouragement that you would give us about anything, leadership, family, whatever?
Two things. One, I just want to honor you, Danny. Thank you for your partnership and your pursuit of Jesus. Super powerful. And I'm grateful to be connected with you and just honor you. Second, I would say, hey, that which God is teaching you, if you're a leader and you have teams, it's then how do those things, what of that applies to strictly you? And then what of that actually applies to your team, your tribe, your sphere of influence, and how can you buy that down? So I'm continually trying to wrestle with what is God just really saying, because he's speaking it to me, and then what has application for our teams. And so my encouragement for you as a leader would be hear from the Lord and let him lead you as a leader, but then also discern from him, what is he teaching you that is supposed to impact your family, your teams, your community, your spheres of influence? And then how do we actually let that be bought down? So that's the word of encouragement I'd give to you.
Love it. Love it. So good. Micah, thank you for sharing some time with us, sharing your wisdom. Excuse me. And I'm fighting a cold here. I apologize. But this has been gold, man. It's going to make us better leaders. And we're going to, hopefully you guys can take a few nuggets and put it into action today. So we love you. And thank you for blessing us today on the podcast.
Back at you, buddy.
Hey guys, we'll see you on the next episode. Blessings to you. Take care.